Well, this week, the governor and the mayor of Miami-Dade County could not line up on which one was supposed to be hiring the contact tracers. In Southeast Florida, in the epicenter of the outbreak, 4 months into the outbreak. One of them said he's supposed to be doing it. The other one said no, he's supposed to be doing it. And they were sitting right next to each other.
Can you guys just look at each other right now and decide who is hiring contact tracers?
Well, no, he announced that he was going to do it.
Then the nation's top infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, called out the state of Florida for skipping over federal guidelines when the governor ordered reopenings.
Certainly Florida, I think jumped over a couple of checkpoints.
The checkpoints include a downward trajectory of documented cases and a downward trajectory of the percent of positive tests for at least 14 days after entering phase 1. Well, the numbers did go down after we entered phase 1, but then they started shooting back up before we entered phase 2. And on that same day, the governor moved us to phase 2 on June the 5th. The Tampa Bay Partnership sent out this press release noting that the Tampa Bay area had its highest single-day increase in new COVID-19 cases at the time. An analysis of broader numbers indicates infections had been trending up for days when the governor ordered phase 2, which included full capacity retail and reopening the bars. The state's own charts show cases had been going up, and a rolling average of cases had been trending up. And the statewide positivity rate, a key indicator of resurgence, had also been trending up in the days before the phase 2 reopening. Those are state charts. Now, here's the Johns Hopkins chart showing the same trend up before phase 2 and how it accelerated after phase 2 kicked in. And on Friday, the governor responded by saying he did the right thing based on how he reads the data.
Our best test results were May and the first 2 weeks of June. There was really no justification to not move forward because of the low, and that continued all through May, continued in the early part of June.
Also this week, reporters asked the governor why his administration has not been releasing county-specific data for COVID-19 hospitalizations, as it said that it would. And the governor talked him in circles.
The state has promised that data would be made available, I think, last Tuesday.
But they have so much raw data on there. I mean, people can pull out, all this information.
The data that she's asking about is not being released. She's asking specifically about the number of patients.
So all the data that goes into this is all available.
Spreadsheet from that data, Governor, it is not available.
He told them the data they have is already so unbelievable.
But just an unbelievable amount of data.
And for reasons he'd prefer we not mention, some of the data is in fact unbelievable. For example, last month, as he was downplaying the rising coronavirus cases, Governor DeSantis claimed that acute outbreaks, like the one he identified at a Central Florida airport, were skewing the numbers.
They looked over almost 500 workers, 260 people working close together, positive 52% positivity rate.
But Orlando International Airport officials said he was referring to them and that what he said and showed in his slideshow presentation just was not true. OIA said of its 500 workers tested that week in June, only 2 reported positive. That would be a 0.4% positivity rate, not 52%.
52% positivity rate.
And before that, on May 20th, the governor took a victory lap while the model showed the virus was still a long way from finished.
Because you got a lot of people in your profession who waxed poetically for weeks and weeks about how Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. Just like Italy, wait 2 weeks.
Again, the governor said that on May 20th, 2 weeks before the cases and positive test rates took off in Florida.
Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next.
This would be 2 weeks after he said that, and that would be what happened next.
So we've succeeded, and I think that people just don't want to recognize it because it challenges their narrative, it challenges their assumption.
Which brings us to the governor's assumption of sending teachers and kids back to school.
If you can do Home Depot, if you can do Walmart, if you can do these things, we absolutely can do the schools.
Putting aside the fact that few people spend 7 to 8 hours a day and eat their breakfast and lunch in Home Depot, given the governor's prior assumptions and his prior victory laps, to what extent can we trust the governor's confidence that requiring teachers to hold 5-day-a-week in-person classes would in fact be safe to the students and their teachers?
I feel like it would be smarter to open schools when the numbers are dropping.
Tamara Doring is a high school English teacher who says teachers can easily catch COVID-19, and she ought to know because she and her husband already have it.
What happens when a kid tests positive? What happens when a kid shows signs? Because based on the CDC guidelines, we're supposed to at least 2 to 5 days out and assess the situation. Does that mean all the kids that are right connected with that kid? Does that mean every kid in that class?
If we're going to follow the CDC guidelines, 6 feet apart, that's 36 square feet for each student. I don't see how that's possible in the rooms that we're currently teaching out of.
To that point, President Trump said he disagrees with the CDC safety guidelines for opening schools, claiming they're expensive and impractical. But as you might expect, that does not comfort teachers like Jim Summers.
We opened up the bars too early and we saw what happened.
The risk, fortunately, for kids is extremely, extremely low, as it is less risky for young kids. And that, I don't know why.
Well, if you don't know why the virus is less risky for kids, you can't rule out the possibility that we may have been shielding them from it by keeping them largely at home. And that infections could take off among kids when schools reopen, just as it took off with young adults when the governor reopened the bars.
The #1 age for positive tests in Florida throughout the whole pandemic right now is age 21.
We're holding our governor to critical challenge, by the way, as we have his predecessors, because governors make critical decisions, especially now, maybe now more than ever, because at this point during the pandemic and where we go from here, for better or worse, the stakes will certainly go far beyond money, power, and politics.